There is a glass jar sitting on the shelf in my spring house. Inside it is a handful of cracked corn, a scoop of wheat, well water, and thyme. That is all. In 4 days, the fish in the creek behind my farm will travel from one bend to the next to find what comes out of that jar. Bluegill, carp, catfish, suckers, bullheads, they will not be able to help themselves, and it costs me almost nothing. My name is Aaron Yoder. I am Amish. I have fished the same creek and the same farm pond for more than 30 years, the way my father fished it and his father before him. We have no electronic fish finder. We have no boat with a motor. We have no tackle box full of $40 lures that the sporting goods store swears will change your life. What we have is a jar of soured grain, and I am going to show you exactly how to make it in the order you make it, with what it costs, and where to use it. Then I am going to tell you the part that should make you uneasy, which is that the bait companies have known about this for 100 years and they will never sell it to you. Because grain you sour in a jar on your own porch does not refill itself at the register every Saturday morning. Stay with me. By the end of this, you will know how to outfish every man on that bank using something you can make for the price of a bag of chicken feed. Let me start with what most folks get wrong, because if you do not understand this, none of the rest will work. Fish do not find your bait with their eyes. Not first. A fish lives in moving, cloudy, dim water, and what it trusts more than anything is its nose. A fish can taste and smell the water around it in a way no land animal ever could. It can pick up 1 part scent in 100 million parts of water. That is the whole game right there. The man on the bank with the shiniest lure is fishing for the eyes. We fish for the nose, and the nose always wins. This is what we have always done. When grain gets wet and sits, it ferments. The same thing that happens in a loaf of sourdough, the same thing that happens in a barrel of cider happens in that jar. Tiny living things break the grain down, and as they do, they release sugars, acids, and amino acids into the water. And here is the thing the good Lord built into a fish. Those amino acids are the exact taste a fish reads as food is here. It is not a trick played on the eye. It is a key fitted to a lock. The fermented grain speaks the language a fish has spoken for millions of years. My grandfather kept a crock of it going behind the barn all summer long. He called it working the grain. He never bought bait in his life. The English drive to the store and pay good money for a jar of dough bait that sat on a warm shelf for 2 years. We make ours fresh in 4 days for pennies, and ours is alive. Here is what I want you to do this week. You will need 3 things: a glass jar with a loose lid, a quart or a half gallon, whatever you have, a few scoops of grain. Cracked corn and wheat are best, but cornmeal, crushed oats, or even stale bread will do in a pinch. You can buy a bag of cracked corn or scratch feed at any feed store or hardware store for a few dollars, and 1 bag will last you the whole season. And water. Well, water or creek water is best. If all you have is town water, let it sit in an open bowl overnight first, because the chlorine they put in it will slow down the very thing we are trying to grow. You start by putting your grain in the jar, about 1/3 full, no more. Pour in water until the grain is well covered with a couple of inches to spare, because the grain will swell. Set the lid on top, but do not screw it down tight. The fermentation does its work and needs to breathe, and a sealed jar can build pressure. Then you set the jar somewhere warm and out of the way. A sunny windowsill, a porch step, the top of the woodpile in the sun. Warmth is what wakes it up. Now you wait. By the second day, you will see little bubbles rising. By the third day, it will smell sour, like a barn in a good way, yeasty and a little sharp. That sour smell is not the bait gone bad. That sour smell is the bait gone right. That is the amino acids and the acids coming alive in the water, the very thing that is going to pull fish to your hook from across the pond. By day 4, it is ready. If it grows a skin of white film on top, that is only the wild yeast, the same as on a crock of pickles. Stir it back in. If it ever turns fuzzy with color, green or black, that one went too long. Tip it out for the chickens and start again. You will learn the smell after one batch. Your nose will know. Now here's how you use it, because making it is only half the work. There are 2 ways, and I use both. The first is the bait itself. The swollen, soured grains of corn go right on the hook. A small hook, a single kernel or 2 of that fermented corn, and you are fishing with something no store can sell you fresh. It is soft, it is fragrant, and it has been calling fish before it ever touched the water. This is your bait for bluegill, for carp, for suckers, for anything that grazes. The second way is the part most folks never learn, and it is where the real magic is. You do not just fish the bait, you seed the spot. A handful of the soured grain, liquid and all, tossed into the water where you mean to fish, a few minutes before you drop your line. This is what the old books call chumming, and what my grandfather just called feeding the whole. That cloud of scent spreads out in the current and rings the dinner bell for every fish downstream. They follow the scent upstream right to the little patch of grain you have laid out, and right to the one kernel sitting on your hook in the middle of it. You are not waiting for a fish to wander by. You are sending out an invitation and setting the table. Feed the whole a little. Do not dump the whole jar. A handful to draw them in and keep the rest to feed it again through the day as the bite slows. A jar will fish you a whole morning and more. Now let me say a word about why you have never heard of this, because it is the same reason you never heard of half the things that actually work. There is no money in it. A bag of cracked corn costs less than 1 package of soft plastic worms, and it will bait 100 trips instead of 1. The man who sells bait cannot make a living telling you to ferment chicken feed in a jar on your porch. So he sells you the shelf jar with the bright label, and the fish, who cannot read labels, swim right past it to the farmer's boy with the sour corn. I am not telling you the store-bought bait never catches a fish. It catches plenty. I am telling you it catches them in spite of what it is, not because of it. And you are paying for a name and a label and a long ride on a truck. We never had any of that. When you cannot drive to the store and you cannot pay for the jar with the bright label, you figure out what actually works with what you have at hand. And what we figured out over generations is that a fish is led by its nose, and a nose can be led with a few cents of grain and 4 days of patience. So this week, here is what I want you to do. Get yourself a bag of cracked corn or scratch feed. Fill a jar 1/3 full, cover it with water, set the lid on loose and put it in the sun. Wait 4 days. When it smells sour and alive, take it to the water. Feed your hole with a handful, bait your hook with a kernel, and sit down on that bank with the patience the Lord gave you. And tell me in the comments below where you fish and what you are after, the pond, the river, the lake, the species. I read every one. And tell me if you set a jar going. I want to hear how it fishes for you. The folks in my community already know this works. I am writing this for the folks outside of it who were never told. The people who built this country with their hands knew things we are only just starting to remember. This is one of them.